You know, Valentine's Day was like yesterday, and I'm sure I gave my crush chocolate. However, what made my day on Valentine's Day was when I watched Black Panther. Yeah, I gotta thank my English teacher's friend for making my day.
Like we used to do.
Black Panther is the 18th Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to date, and this movie is directed by my English teacher's friend Ryan Coogler. Now in this movie, Black Panther takes place right after the events of Civil War, where T'Challa finally goes back to Wakanda after the death of his father T'Chaka. And now as he takes as the throne as the king of Wakanda, there are terror that has been reigned as the villain Claw has finally made his return, and also Killmonger who wants to take over the throne. And now it's up to T'Challa to become the Black Panther and take responsibility as being the king of Wakanda and save his tribe once and for all. Now, to be honest, I was gonna watch this on a holiday, but I want to say that watching on a holiday was the second time. I know I got not much to do on Wednesday instead of fixing. However, I was like, you know, is it possible if I watch this movie on Wednesday, like, can I just go there and watch it alone? So I just had to call my friend to get me an Uber, and then suddenly I went to the theater, like, oh, thank God I got the movie. I got to see this in IMAX. And yeah, I was kind of guilty, like, I was gonna see this movie in IMAX alone, but in the end, it was worth it. I mean, I enjoyed with this movie. Now, in the beginning of the movie, the beginning tells us, like, these backstory, like, it tells you a backstory, like, what happened back in the years in the 90s, where T'Chaka was this, and then suddenly we get to the scene where Black Panther saves the day and all that. Throughout the middle of the movie, then that's what the villain shows up. I'm going to talk about Killmonger later on, but there's a specific backstory that connects to the villain, and this is when the villain starts to rise. This is when Michael B. Jordan starts to become a great villain in this movie, and this is when things goes out of hand. And then finally, as we get to the ending of the movie, the ending's like, you know, when T'Challa's finally king and the villain is finally dead, and you're like, what are we gonna do now? We're gonna take over T'Challa? Are we still gonna be Wakanda warriors? And then T'Challa had to show some stuff, which is showing the backstory, which is why I feel like from the beginning, middle, and I'm like, Juna, why are you not telling me about the good stuff from the movie? Well, it's because I'm trying not to spoil this movie as well, but at the same time, it feels like there's really a connection. There's really a connection to the backstory that they had in this movie, and I felt like that's something that Ryan Coogler really added in this movie. Now, how do we start with this movie review? I mean, there's a lot of things. I've already got into the plot. So let's start with the shots in this movie. I really like the shots in this movie, and there's some great scenery in this movie. I really like the scenes in this movie, and however the storyline works great in this movie. I don't know what to say about storyline, but the storyline did a great job. I mean, Ryan Coogler did a great job with this movie. I mean, you know how storylines for Marvel movies work. I mean, it's kind of like those typical ones that you've usually seen, like the villain finally shows up and then things happen, and that's what Ryan Coogler tried to do. I think Ryan Coogler did a great job writing the script, and especially trying to do with the storyline, especially with doing the scenes. I mean, there are lots of scenes that I enjoy with this movie. I love the scenery in this movie. I like to say that the visuals were great. I really like the shots in this movie, and if you're watching this in IMAX, like I said, yes, this is what I say, everything was great in this movie. There are lots of scenes that I enjoyed. Like, for example, I like the South Korean car chase scene. I thought it was really epic, and the action in this movie was really amazing. I really honor. I mean, when you're watching this movie, I know it tried to get a dark tone and light tone at the same time, and at the same time, it tried to be comedic, but at the same time, it tried not to because it's a serious movie, and this is what I like about this movie. I mean, it tries to be those black stereotypical movie that you usually seen, and he really captures it in a good way. I mean, there are also some parts where the characters had an African culture in Wakanda, and I really like that. That really visualized Wakanda. I mean, Ryan Coogler had a great visuals for this movie, and I think he really did a great job trying to catch Wakanda and put it in his image and put it in the movie, and how he put his black people in a different way, and I really like that. I mean, first of all, I seen Black Panther as something else, as King of Wakanda, and how they use these elements in this movie, and I really like the movie as well. I mean, I like the action in this movie, the visuals are great, the actions were great in this movie, I like the scenes in this movie, and at some parts the characters were also enjoyable at the same time, which I'll get to that later. However, before we get to the characters, I want to talk about the soundtrack in this movie. I mean, I like the score in this movie. The score did a great job, but at some time, the score had some scenes the score had some sounds from the soundtrack. Yes, the soundtrack, let's talk about it. Now, this is the soundtrack from Kendrick Lamar, if you listen to it, the Black Panther album. Now, I've listened to all the songs and I really enjoyed it, but I'm going to give you a guidance with this soundtrack over here. Ops, that's my favorite song. However, there's a great remix in this song. The Waste, that's a good Valentine's music. Love That Over There, King's Death. Love That Over There, All Stars, ending song. Oh, that's probably my favorite, Pray For Me. Good song, yep. All of it. I really enjoyed the album. I mean, I hate to disappoint you, but I didn't see all of the songs making their appearance in this movie, and yeah, it was disappointing, but at the same time, they had some songs that were not in the album, like, wait, I haven't listened to the song yet. Well, what song is this? And I know Ryan Coogler tried to make sure that we can put these songs in this movie. I mean, the song was made for the album, especially, the album was also made for this movie, but at least some of the song makes an appearance. I mean, it was made specially for the movie. And however, I also like the scenes in this movie. Like I said, the actions were great. And I think, yeah, Ryan Coogler really did a great job. You want to talk about the characters, let's go for it. We have our main character, T'Challa, played by Chadewick Boseman, and I really feel like he did a great job portraying his character as T'Challa. As T'Challa now, he really has this fears that after he loses dad from Civil War, and now that he becomes the king of Wakanda, he's like, he needs to know things, he needs to understand things, and he's not sure whether he's ready to face the consequence or not. And then sometimes he feels like that there's something not right, and he needs to take the responsibility, which is the idea of how he plays his character. And then he plays as Black Panther, and Black Panther really gets a new suit and a new upgrade, which I really enjoy. I like the Black Panther suit. Like, there's that one time where Black Panther got like that scene when they're on the car, and then suddenly Black Panther got shot many times with many bullets, and then suddenly that bullet turned into a kinetic energy, and it goes boom, and that goes awesome. Like, that was an awesome thing with the suit. Like, there's some other characters that I'll tell you about later. Now, in this other side of the characters, we also got the female characters, which we'll get to Okoye, which Okoye is like kind of like the Dora Milaje. I think it's kind of like the leader, the general of the soldier, and I feel like she did a great job playing that role. And then we also have Lupita Nyong'o playing as Nakia, who's basically T'Challa's love interest. And to be honest, when I was gonna go see this movie, I was like, I don't think I see much, but hey, at least Nakia tried to show her love with for T'Challa. And then suddenly we also have T'Challa's sister known as Shuri, and Shuri is the girl who basically steals the show. I mean, you would say that she's smarter than Tony Stark, which is actually a true thing, and she's also funny at the same time. Like, she's really an enjoyable character that you want to have as your sister. And also, other side, you also have Everett Ross and Martin Freeman making his appearance, and I think he really did great being in this movie, and really like his appearance in this movie. Now we're gonna talk about the main villains. Before we talk about the main villains, I want to talk about Ulysses Claw. Ulysses Claw, yeah, that's the main villain over there, and yeah, he's back in this movie. And I'm gonna say this, but he's the Joker of this movie. I mean, everything he does, he's like, oh my god, that was awesome, right? Yeah, that was hilarious. That's how he acts in this movie. And Andy Serkis acts hilarious in this movie. I'm gonna say it's hilarious. And there's that one time where, if you remember in Age of Ultron, his arm got cut off. Psych, well, guess what? His arm was like split like this, and then suddenly his arm turns into a third, which I was like, oh my god, that's like the coolest thing, but at the same time it was also shocking. And yeah, I would say that Ulysses Claw is like one of the most insane villains I've ever seen in this movie that Ryan Coogler would afford in this movie. And then we get to our main villain, which is played by Ryan Coogler's friend himself, Michael B. Jordan, and that's basically Eric Killmonger. Now, Killmonger had a very good story in this movie. We could say this is why he's one of the best villains ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, out of every Marvel Cinematic Universe, because he has a similar backstory in this movie, and the backstory really tells a lot, like what causes Killmonger to take revenge on Wakanda, and what causes him to take on the throne of his hate. He really shows his hate in this movie, and Michael B. Jordan did a great job portraying his role in this movie, and he plays a good villain in this movie. I'm gonna say this, but Black Panther is one of the greatest Marvel movies when it's from your English teacher's friend. I know that's a funny critic, I would say, but I'm gonna tell you, yes, my English teachers are friends with Ryan Coogler, so I'm gonna tell you the backstory. I'm not gonna say my English teacher's name, but you can see him in the comments, basically. However, so how they started that, basically they met together when it was like 2006 in a college together, I forgot the name, and they used to play football together. And now after college, Ryan Coogler finally directed movies like Fruitvale Station and Creed, and now Black Panther. I really like Black Panther, really. I mean, it was an enjoyable movie. I can't say that this movie was hateable, because at the same time it was also enjoyable. Like, the characters were enjoyable, the storylines was great, and there were some great visuals, there were some great settings in this movie that Ryan Coogler did a great job trying to put that visualization in this movie. And that's why Rotten Tomatoes tried to top Iron Man in this movie, so you did a great job, Ryan Coogler. I'm very proud of you. Out of all the 2 movies that I haven't watched, and Black Panther was one of the first movies I watched, I promise I'll watch Fruitvale Station and possibly Creed. Since I watched this movie in IMAX, I say it's a much more epic intense for a Ryan Coogler movie in IMAX 3D. Yes, I'm very serious about this movie. Seeing Black Panther in IMAX 3D, it's probably the best way to see this movie. But yeah, that was my review on Black Panther. Have you seen it? What do you think of the movie? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, for those who have a Marvel crush on Scarlet Witch, don't worry, because once Black Panther comes out, that's also the day where it's Elizabeth Olsen's birthday. And keep in mind, the day after I do this review, next week is also my birthday, so please mark the date. Please mark the date over there. It's right over there. That's like 5 days after the release of the movie. But yeah, that was my review on Black Panther.
The revolution will be live.
I hope I got good rates for this, but yeah, I really hope I got good rates for this review. Am I going to get good rates? Okay. Here's the outro. That is all for this video. If you do enjoy this video, give it a like. That would be very helpful. And in the description, you'll find 2 links where you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Google+. Nice to see you guys for watching this. And I'll see you another time. Goodbye.